The cold bit first, then the pain, sharp and insistent, followed by the mechanical hiss of cryostasis pods releasing their reluctant occupants. Commander Ilara Novak's eyes snapped open, her vision a blur of emergency lights and unfamiliar shadows. The mission chronometer read 2,847 days since departure from Earth orbit. Nearly 8 years in deep sleep, just as planned for the Jupiter research expedition. But something was wrong. The vibrations beneath her weren't the familiar hum of the Odysseus research vessel. The gravity felt lighter, the air sweetly unfamiliar. Vital signs stabilizing. Consciousness pattern optimal, said a voice, melodic and clearly not human. Ilara tried to sit up, but restraints held her in place. Not the medical harnesses from her pod, but something fluid, almost alive against her skin. Panic surged as her training kicked in. "Release me," she demanded, her voice raspy from years of disuse. "The integration process is nearly complete," the voice continued. "Her neural pathways are adapting remarkably well to the translation matrix." As Ilara's vision cleared, she gasped. The ceiling above wasn't the utilitarian metal of her ship, but a luminescent dome that seemed to shift between colors that had no name in any human language. And leaning over her was not human. Definitely not human. The being had iridescent skin that shimmered between deep purple and midnight blue. Eyes like liquid silver pools studied her with unmistakable intelligence. A crown of crystalline structures adorned a graceful head, pulsing gently with internal light. "You're finally awake, my starborn," the being said, now in perfect English. "I've waited so long." The restraints dissolved, and Ilara immediately scrambled backward, searching for anything to use as a weapon. Her astronaut training had covered first contact protocols, but nothing prepared her for waking up on an alien vessel. "Where's my crew? My ship?" Ilara demanded, trying to keep her voice steady as she assessed her surroundings. The chamber was vast, curved, with technology that seemed to grow organically from the walls. The being, female, Ilara somehow knew, smiled. "Your vessel was damaged beyond repair when we found it drifting near the Helion Nebula. You were the only one still in viable cryostasis. The others." She paused delicately. "Their systems had failed centuries ago." "Centuries?" Ilara whispered, the word hanging between them like a physical weight. "By your Earth calendar, you've been adrift for just over 300 years. Ilara's knees buckled. 300 years. Everyone she'd ever known, gone. Earth itself might be unrecognizable, if it still existed at all. "I am Empress Lyrics of the Stellarian Empire," the being continued, extending a six-fingered hand that Ilara didn't take. "When our sensors detected your life signature, I knew immediately. The quantum resonance between us is unmistakable." "What resonance? What are you talking about?" Lyrics' silver eyes widened with something like surprise. "You don't feel it? The connection between us? In your Earth languages, the closest concept might be soulmates, though that term barely scratches the surface of what we are to each other." Ilara laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "Soulmates? I don't even know what species you are." "Species is merely a physical construct," Lyric said, seeming genuinely puzzled by Ilara's resistance. "The connection I speak of transcends biological form. Throughout the cosmos, certain souls recognize each other across time and space. Yours called to mine across the void." A door Ilara hadn't noticed before dissolved, and several more aliens entered, guards, judging by their stance and the weapons integrated into their armor. "Your Radiance," one said, bowing deeply to Lyrics, "the Council awaits your presence." "They're concerned about the off-worlder." Lyrics nodded regally. "Tell them I've found what was prophesied. The celestial convergence has begun." She turned back to Ilara, who was calculating the distance to the door and her chances of escape. "Rest. Adjust. Tomorrow I'll show you your new home. Her silver eyes softened. I know this is overwhelming, but you're safe here. When you're ready, I'll explain everything. She hesitated, then added, I've waited 3 of your lifetimes to find you, Ilara Novak. A little more patience won't hurt. As lyrics glided away, Ilara sank to the floor, her mind racing. Soulmate to an alien empress? It was absurd. Yet something in Lyrics's presence had felt oddly familiar. Like remembering a dream you didn't know you'd had. Whatever game this was, Ilara needed answers, and a way home, even if home now existed only in history books. The Stellarian capital planet of Nixara was nothing like Earth. From the transport vessel's viewing portal, Ilara watched crystalline spires twist impossibly upward, some disappearing into the lavender clouds above. The architecture seemed alive, buildings shifting subtly as if breathing with the planet itself. Our structures are semi-sentient, Empress Lyrics explained, noting Ilara's wide-eyed gaze. They grow from seed crystals, adapting to our needs over time. Ilara remained silent, still processing the revelation that 3 centuries had passed since her mission launched. Her mind struggled between scientific curiosity and profound grief. Everyone she'd ever known was dust now, Earth itself potentially unrecognizable. The transport glided into an enormous docking bay within the central palace complex. Unlike the sterile airlocks Ilara was trained for, this one shimmered with a membrane that they passed through effortlessly. The barrier identifies molecular structures, Lyrics said. It allows living tissue through while filtering toxins and pathogens. Convenient, Ilara murmured, her first word in hours. She'd been determined to remain silent, to give nothing away, but her scientist's mind couldn't help but engage. A delegation awaited their arrival, tall, elegant Stellarians with varying hues of iridescent skin and elaborate crystalline adornments that seemed to indicate rank. They bowed deeply to their empress but regarded Ilara with unconcealed suspicion. Your Radiance, said one whose crown-like structure glowed a deep crimson, the High Council requests immediate audience regarding the visitor. Chancellor Tholos, Lyrics acknowledged coolly. The Council forgets itself. I do not answer to them regarding matters of celestial prophecy. Ilara caught the tension immediately. Behind the flowing robes and otherworldly beauty, politics remained universal. Commander Novak requires rest and acclamation, Lyrics continued, placing a protective hand on Ilara's shoulder. The touch sent an unexpected warmth through Ilara's body. The Council's curiosity can wait until tomorrow. As they moved through the palace corridors, Ilara studied everything with a scientist's precision. The gravity was approximately 0.8 of Earth's. The air carried faint notes of something like cinnamon and ozone. The Stellarians they passed whispered as she walked by, some making gestures that looked suspiciously like warning signs. They fear what they don't understand, Lyrics said softly. You are the first human most have ever seen. And what exactly do they think I am to you? Ilara asked pointedly. Lyrics paused before a doorway that spiraled open at her approach. That is a complex matter. Come, these will be your quarters. The room beyond was breathtaking, a spacious chamber with walls that shifted between deep blue and violet, furniture that seemed grown rather than built, and a ceiling that opened to the alien sky. I thought Earth's most comfortable elements might ease your transition, Lyric said, gesturing to a section containing remarkably Earth-like furnishings, a bed with actual blankets, a desk with physical books, even plants that resembled terrestrial species. How do you know what humans find comfortable? Ilara asked, suspicion edging her voice. We've observed Earth for millennia, Lyric said simply. Though direct contact was forbidden until recently. Why? Your species was deemed unpredictable. Violent. But evolving rapidly. Lyrics's silver eyes studied her. We've been waiting. For what? For humans to develop the capacity to join the galactic community. Lyrics hesitated. And for you, specifically. Ilara's patience snapped. Enough riddles. You keep talking about connections and prophecies. Either explain plainly or leave me alone. Instead of anger, Lyrix's face showed compassion. She gestured toward what appeared to be a window but was actually a sophisticated display. 312 years ago, by your counting, a phenomenon occurred that our scientists called quantum soul entanglement. A consciousness from Earth somehow reached across space, touching the minds of several Stellarians, including my ancestor. The connection was brief but profound. The display showed images of Ilara's ship, the Odysseus, as it might have been seen from another vessel. When your ship was damaged by the meteor storm, your cryopod malfunctioned in an unexpected way. Instead of merely suspending your consciousness, it somehow broadcasted across vast distances. Your dreams during cryosleep touched our minds. Ilara felt cold realization wash over her. You're saying what? Telepathically communicated while frozen? In simple terms, yes. Your mind called out, and some of us heard. The royal bloodline has always been particularly sensitive to such phenomena. Lyrix's voice softened. For 3 centuries, the connection has grown stronger with each generation. I was born with your thoughts already mingled with mine. The implications were staggering. That's why you called me your soulmate, Ilara whispered. You believe our minds are connected. Not believe, no. Lyrix approached, her movements graceful and deliberate. Close your eyes. Focus on the space between your thoughts. Despite her skepticism, Ilara complied, exhaustion and curiosity overriding caution. At first, there was nothing. Then, a whisper of something foreign yet familiar, like remembering a song heard in childhood. Emotions not her own brushed against her consciousness, hope, fascination, and something deeper that made her cheeks flush. Ilara's eyes flew open. That's not possible. It is why many fear you, Lyrix said. The prophecy states that one from beyond the stars would come, bound to the royal house through quantum entanglement of souls. This being would either unite our empire with the greater galactic community or destroy everything we've built. Her silver eyes held Ilara's. The choice, apparently, is yours. Ilara sank onto the earth-like bed, her head spinning. I never asked for this. Neither did I, Lyrix replied with surprising candor. Yet here we are. As the alien Empress left her alone with her thoughts, Ilara gazed out at the unfamiliar constellations of this world so far from her own. 300 years gone in what felt like a night's sleep. A civilization that knew her through her dreams. An Empress who believed them cosmically bound. And somewhere out there, an Earth that had continued without her, perhaps forgetting the lost Jupiter mission entirely. She had never felt more alone, yet, paradoxically, more connected to something vast and incomprehensible than ever before. The Grand Council chamber of the Stellarian Empire resembled an amphitheater carved from living crystal. 12 high seats arranged in a semicircle housed the most powerful nobles of Nixara, their crystalline crowns glowing with colors that shifted with their emotions. In the center, elevated above the others, sat the Empress's throne, a structure that seemed to be composed of frozen starlight. Ilara stood to the right of this throne, uncomfortable in the formal Stellarian attire provided for her. The garment, a flowing robe of material that adjusted to her body temperature, was practical enough, but the significance of its deep violet color, matching Lyrix's royal hue, wasn't lost on the council members, who murmured disapprovingly as she entered. The off-worlder dresses as royal consort already, one council member whispered loudly enough for Ilara to hear. It had been 2 weeks since her awakening, and Ilara had spent most of that time studying Stellarian culture and technology with the voraciousness of the scientist she was. The more she learned, the more she realized how precarious her position had become. Empress Lyrix swept into the chamber, her presence immediately commanding silence. The counselors rose and performed the traditional greeting, right hand placed over the center of the chest, where Stellarians had not one heart but three. "Esteemed Council," Lyrics began, her melodic voice carrying effortlessly, "I have called this assembly to formally introduce Commander Elara Novak of Earth, and to address the growing concerns regarding the prophecy of convergence." Chancellor Tholos, whose crimson crown seemed particularly bright today, spoke first. "Your Radiance, while we respect your sovereignty, bringing an unknown alien species directly into the royal inner circle violates centuries of protocol. The quarantine laws exist for a reason. Laws which I have the authority to suspend when necessary," Lyrics countered smoothly. "The prophecy is clear: when the Star Traveler awakens from timeless sleep, the quantum bond will be completed, and a new age for the 13 systems will begin." A counselor with a blue-green crown stood. "Your Radiance, many interpretations of that prophecy exist, not all of them favorable. Some scholars believe that the new age refers to our destruction." Elara listened carefully, noting the political alliances forming through subtle glances and gestures among the counselors. Her tactical training from Earth Space Command hadn't prepared her for alien court politics, but human nature, or in this case, Stellarian nature, seemed universal in its hunger for power. "Commander Novak," called a counselor whose name Elara recalled as Valis, "you have been unusually quiet. What are your intentions toward our empire?" All eyes turned to her. This was the first time she'd been directly addressed in council. "My only intention was to complete my research mission to Jupiter," Elara replied carefully. "I never intended to be frozen for 3 centuries or to wake up in a different solar system entirely. As for your prophecy, I know nothing about it beyond what Empress Lyrics has shared." "Yet you claim to share a quantum bond with our Empress," pressed Valis. "I claim nothing," Elara countered. "I'm still trying to understand what happened to me and how I got here." Chancellor Tholos's crown flashed a dangerous red. "Convenient ignorance." "Meanwhile, the Schism faction grows stronger, using your arrival as proof that the royal line has been compromised. 3 assassination attempts against her Radiance in 2 weeks, all since your arrival." Elara turned sharply toward Lyrics. "Assassination attempts? You didn't tell me." "It was unnecessary to concern you," Lyrics said dismissively, but Elara caught something else in her silver eyes: protection, perhaps. She was shielding Elara from something. "The council session is concluded for today," Lyrics announced suddenly. "Commander Novak requires further time to acclimate before addressing matters of state." As they exited the chamber, Elara felt the burn of hostile gazes following them. Once they were alone in a private corridor, she confronted the Empress. "You're using me as some kind of political symbol, aren't you? This quantum bond nonsense is just to legitimize something you're planning." Lyrics's expression showed genuine hurt. "The bond is real, Elara. Have you not felt it growing stronger? The shared dreams? The moments when you know my thoughts before I speak them?" Elara had indeed experienced these things but had rationalized them as stress or the effects of adapting to alien food and atmosphere. The truth was far more unsettling. She was beginning to sense Lyrics's presence even when they were apart, like a warm glow in the periphery of her consciousness. "The Schism faction," Elara said, changing the subject. "Tell me about them." Lyrics sighed, her iridescent skin dimming slightly. "Traditionalists who believe contact with other species dilutes our purity. They've always existed, but your arrival has galvanized them. They believe I've betrayed our people by embracing the prophecy." "And have you?" "I've embraced what I know to be true," Lyrics said simply. "Our connection is real, and it has purpose beyond either of us." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Kellen, Lyrics's chief security officer, whose sleek armor seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Your Radiance," he said urgently, "we've captured a Schism infiltrator in the East Wing. She was attempting to access the off-worlders' quarters." Elara felt a chill. "To do what, exactly?" "We're interrogating her now," Kellen replied, giving Alara an appraising look that suggested he wasn't entirely convinced of her innocence. "Show me," Lyrics commanded, and they followed Kellen through a series of corridors that Alara hadn't been permitted to explore before. They arrived at a secure chamber where a young female Stellarian was being held in a containment field. Her skin was a pale lavender, her eyes defiant despite her capture. "I acted for the good of all Nixara," she said as soon as Lyrics entered. "The prophecy warns of destruction if the bond is completed. The off-worlder must be returned to the void." "The prophecy says no such thing," Lyrics replied evenly. "You've been deceived, Your Radiance. Ask the Oracle of Thelos what truly awaits if the quantum bridge is fully formed." Alara watched Lyrics's expression carefully and caught the momentary flicker of doubt cross her features. There was something the Empress wasn't sharing. Later that night, as Alara studied star charts trying to locate Earth's solar system from this unfamiliar part of the galaxy, a hidden door in her chambers slid open. She reached for the makeshift weapon she'd fashioned from components of her quarters, only to find Lyrics entering alone, without her usual guards. "We need to talk," the Empress said, her voice lacking its usual imperial confidence. "There's more to the prophecy than I've revealed, and time is running short. The Schism faction is right about one thing: a choice is coming, and the consequences will reshape not just our empire, but your world as well." For the first time, Alara saw fear in the alien Empress's silver eyes, and something within her responded, an instinctive protectiveness that felt both foreign and deeply familiar, as if she'd carried it across 3 centuries of frozen sleep and countless light-years of space. The Oracle of Thelos dwelled in the ancient heart of Nixara, far below the crystalline spires of the capital. Alara and Lyrics descended alone, against the vehement protests of the Imperial Guard, through passageways that predated the Stellarian Empire itself. "These tunnels were carved by the first ones," Lyrics explained as they passed walls inscribed with symbols that seemed to shift and change when viewed directly. "The beings who seeded our world with life millions of years ago." The air grew heavy with a sweet, incense-like scent that made Alara's head swim slightly. Despite her scientific skepticism, there was something undeniably powerful about this place. "Why did you hide this part of the prophecy from me?" Alara asked, her voice echoing strangely in the ancient corridor. Lyrics's iridescent skin dimmed slightly, a sign of emotional distress that Alara had learned to recognize. "Because it frightened me," the Empress admitted. "For all our technological advancement, there are forces in the universe that Stellarians still consider mystical. The quantum entanglement between us is one such phenomenon." They emerged into a vast circular chamber whose ceiling opened directly to the night sky, the 3 moons of Nixara visible through the aperture. At the center sat an impossibly old Stellarian, skin faded to a pale blue-white, eyes clouded with cataracts yet somehow fixing precisely on Alara as she entered. "The Star Traveler arrives," the Oracle whispered, voice like dry leaves rustling. "And brings with her the ending or the beginning." Alara stepped forward. "I need to understand what's happening between us," she said, gesturing to Lyrics. "This connection is no accident," the Oracle interrupted. "When your vessel drifted into the quantum filament near what you call the Helion Nebula, your consciousness intersected with the ancient network left by the first ones." The Oracle gestured, and the air around them shimmered. Suddenly, Alara saw the Odysseus as it must have appeared 3 centuries ago, damaged by meteorite impacts, life support systems failing. "Your crewmates perished quickly," the Oracle continued. "But your cryopod intersected with a strand of the quantum network. Instead of death, your consciousness was diffused across space and time. Parts of your mind touched many worlds, many beings, but the strongest connection formed with the Stellarian royal bloodline." Images flickered around them. Alara could see generations of Stellarian rulers, each experiencing dreams and thoughts that weren't their own. Human thoughts. Her thoughts. "For 3 centuries, Lyrics said softly, my ancestors carried pieces of your consciousness. Each generation, the connection grew stronger. When I was born, the bond was so powerful that I could see through your eyes at times, experience fragments of your memories. My scientists detected your vessel's distress beacon 2 years ago. We recovered your cryopod, repaired your body, and waited for the proper moment to awaken you. The revelation hit Alara like a physical blow. You've been in my head for your entire life? And you in mine, Lyrics answered. Though you weren't conscious of it. The oracle raised a gnarled hand. The complete prophecy, Empress. Tell her. Lyrics's silver eyes met Alara's. When the quantum bridge between our minds fully forms, which it has been doing since you awakened, we will become something new. Neither fully human nor stellarian, but a hybrid consciousness capable of understanding both perspectives completely. The first true bridge between species. That doesn't sound so terrible, Alara said cautiously. The prophecy states that this hybrid consciousness will either unite the 13 systems in lasting peace, or trigger a catastrophic collapse of the quantum network that has stabilized our region of space for millennia. Billions would die as planetary orbits destabilize and stars go supernova. The oracle nodded gravely. The choice lies within both of you, yet neither of you alone. The bridge forms through understanding and acceptance, or fractures through fear and rejection. Why me? Alara demanded. Of all humans, why was I chosen for this? The universe does not choose, the oracle replied enigmatically. It simply allows patterns to emerge from chaos. Your mind was uniquely compatible with the quantum network. Perhaps because of your scientific curiosity, perhaps because of something deeper in your neural structure. The why matters less than what comes next. A tremor ran through the chamber, dust falling from the ancient ceiling. The oracle looked up sharply. They have found us, she said. The Schism faction. They seek to sever the bond by eliminating one of you. How? Lyrics asked. This chamber is shielded from all scanning technology. Betrayal, the oracle said simply. One close to you has revealed your location. As if summoned by the words, Chancellor Tholos appeared at the entrance to the chamber, flanked by armed Stellarians bearing the red insignia of the Schism faction. Your Radiance, he said with mock deference, you have led us directly to the off-worlder. How convenient. Alara stepped protectively in front of Lyrics, but the Empress gently moved her aside. This is treason, Tholos, Lyrics said calmly. The Council will never support you. The Council already supports me, he replied. They voted while you were sneaking down here with your alien pet. The prophecy is clear to those who read it correctly, the hybrid consciousness will destroy everything we've built. You've misinterpreted, the oracle began, but Tholos cut her off. You have served your purpose, Ancient One. The time for mysticism is over. The Stellarian Empire will remain pure and isolated, as it should be. He raised a weapon unlike any Alara had seen, a device that seemed to bend light around it. This will sever your quantum connection permanently, he explained. It may also sever your minds from your bodies, but such is the price of Empire security. As he aimed the weapon, time seemed to slow for Alara. The quantum connection between her and Lyrics flared suddenly, intensely. In that moment, she could access not just Lyrics's thoughts but her knowledge. 3 centuries of Stellarian technology and science flooded her consciousness. Without thinking, Alara reached out her hand toward the weapon. Something inside her understood its principles, how it manipulated quantum fields, how it could be disrupted. She felt energy surge through her body, directed by her will rather than any physical mechanism. The weapon in Tholos's hand shimmered, then dissolved into particles of light. Impossible, he whispered, staring at his empty hand. Alara turned to Lyrics, seeing equal shock in the Empress's silver eyes. What did I just do? You accessed the quantum network directly, the oracle said, wonder in her ancient voice. The bridge between you is nearly complete. Tholos barked an order, and his soldiers raised conventional weapons. But before they could fire, the chamber filled with Imperial guards led by Kellen, who had apparently tracked them despite Lyrix's attempts at secrecy. As Tholos and his followers were subdued, Elara felt a strange doubling of her vision, seeing the chamber both through her eyes and Lyrix's simultaneously. She could feel the Empress's thoughts intertwining with her own, no longer separate consciousnesses but something beginning to merge. "It's happening," Lyrix whispered, reaching for Elara's hand. "The final stage of the bond." The Oracle hobbled forward. "You stand at the precipice now. The choice approaches, unity or destruction. Not just for yourselves, but for all." As they left the ancient chamber, Elara caught a glimpse of a star chart on one wall, and suddenly recognized her own solar system among the constellations. For the first time since awakening, she could locate Earth precisely. And with that knowledge came a devastating understanding: a ship had been prepared for her. She could return home if she chose, but doing so would tear apart the quantum bond forming between her and Lyrix, with consequences neither of them could fully predict. Home to an Earth 3 centuries removed from the one she knew, or remain here as something neither fully human nor stellarian, with a responsibility she never asked for. The weight of galaxies seemed to rest on her next decision. Dawn broke over Nyxara's capital city, casting prismatic light through the crystalline spires. Elara stood on the balcony of the royal quarters, watching the three moons fade against the brightening sky. Her mind felt both crowded and expansive, Lyrix's thoughts interweaving with her own in an increasingly seamless tapestry. In the week since the confrontation with Tholos, the Imperial Palace had become a fortress. The Schism faction, though weakened by the arrest of their leader, had grown more desperate. Reports came hourly of uprisings across the Empire, all centered around a single demand: send the off-worlder away. "They're afraid," Lyrix said, joining Elara on the balcony. The Empress moved differently now, with hints of human mannerisms she'd absorbed through their strengthening bond. "Change always breeds fear." "They have reason to be afraid," Elara replied, leaning against the railing. "I'm not entirely sure what we're becoming." She could feel the quantum network more clearly each day, a vast, invisible web connecting star systems throughout this region of space. The first ones had created it millennia ago, stabilizing planetary orbits and stellar dynamics across the 13 systems. The network was governed by consciousness, that was its genius and its vulnerability. Kellen appeared at the doorway, his armor showing battle damage from the previous night's skirmish. "Your Radiance, the Council has assembled as requested, but 6 seats remain empty. The Schism sympathizers have fled the capital." "And the ship?" Lyrix asked, though Elara already knew the answer through their shared thoughts. "Prepared as commanded," Kellen confirmed, glancing uneasily at Elara. "Though I must again register my objection to this plan." After he departed, Elara turned to Lyrix. "You had a ship prepared for me. To return to Earth." It wasn't a question. Through their bond, she'd seen Lyrix order the preparation of a vessel capable of traversing the vast distance between Nyxara and Earth's solar system. A final gift, a final choice. "I won't keep you prisoner," Lyrix said softly. "If returning to your world is what you truly desire, I won't stop you." Elara closed her eyes, accessing the knowledge that flowed between them. The journey would take approximately 2 years, even with Stellarian technology. Earth would be utterly transformed from the world she'd left behind 3 centuries ago, assuming humanity had survived its own tendencies toward self-destruction. "And what happens to the quantum bridge if I leave?" she asked, though she already sensed the answer. "The Oracle believes it would collapse," Lyrix admitted. "The strain of separation across such distance would tear apart the delicate connections forming between us. The consequences for the network itself are uncertain." A tremor shook the palace, followed by the unmistakable sound of explosions. Alarms blared throughout the complex. Within moments, Kellen returned, urgency evident in his movements. "Schism forces have breached the lower levels," he reported. They've deployed quantum disruptors. Our shields are failing. Lyrix's command was immediate. Evacuate the council. Prepare my personal transport. And the Earth vessel? Kellen asked. Lyrix looked to Alara, the question unspoken between them. Another explosion rocked the structure, closer this time. Through their connection, Alara could sense the palace's semi-sentient architecture responding, rerouting essential systems, sealing breaches. Take me to the ship, Alara said at last. They moved swiftly through corridors increasingly filled with smoke and panicked staff. Imperial guards formed a protective ring around them, fighting off schism attackers at two junctions. The quantum disruptors, weapons Alara now understood were designed to target the living technology of Stellarian structures, were causing the palace itself to wither and die in places. The royal spaceport occupied a vast dome at the palace's summit. As they entered, Alara saw two vessels prepared for launch, Lyrix's elegant royal transport, and beside it, a smaller but sleeker ship with modified systems clearly designed for long-distance travel. Her way home. The spaceport shuddered as another explosion tore through the palace below. Through their bond, Alara sensed Lyrix's mounting concern, not for herself, but for her people, for the stability of the quantum network that held the 13 systems in balance. You need to choose now, Lyrix said, her silver eyes reflecting the emergency lights. The network is destabilizing. I can feel it. Alara could feel it too, disturbances in the quantum filaments that stretched across space, connecting worlds and minds in ways humanity had never imagined. The bridge between her and Lyrix had become a critical node in that network, their hybrid consciousness somehow essential to its continued function. Looking at the Earth vessel, Alara felt a profound homesickness, not just for the planet she'd left behind, but for the simplicity of being only herself, bearing only her own thoughts and responsibilities. But that person no longer existed. She'd been transformed by 3 centuries in the quantum network, by the merging of her mind with Lyrix's, by knowledge no human had ever possessed. I'm not choosing between Earth and Nixara, Alara said slowly. I'm choosing between the past and the future. Through their connection, she sent Lyrix a cascade of images, the quantum network stabilized not by separation of species but by their integration, a new kind of consciousness that could bridge the gaps between different forms of sentient life throughout the galaxy. Lyrix's silver eyes widened as she grasped Alara's plan. You want to complete the bond. Fully. The Oracle said our hybrid consciousness could unite the 13 systems, Alara replied. What if that's what the network was designed for all along? Not isolation, but connection. Another explosion rocked the spaceport. Schism forces would breach this level within minutes. It's dangerous, Lyrix warned. No Stellarian has ever attempted a complete quantum merger. Our individual consciousness could be lost entirely. Or transformed into something greater, Alara countered. Isn't that what evolution is about? Becoming more than what came before. Making her decision, Alara stepped away from the Earth vessel and took Lyrix's 6-fingered hand in her own. The contact intensified their connection instantly, memories, knowledge, emotions flowing between them like water finding new channels. Kellen, Lyrix commanded, evacuate all personnel from the palace. Then initiate the royal transport's launch sequence. But your radiance, he began to protest. The palace is lost, she interrupted. Save our people. We will manage what comes next. As the spaceport emptied, Alara and Lyrix stood together at its center, the quantum network visible to them now as strands of luminous energy connecting all things. The palace trembled around them as schism forces drew closer. Are you certain? Lyrix asked one final time. Once begun, this cannot be undone. Alara smiled. I've already lived 300 years longer than expected. What's a little more adventure? They reached for each other, foreheads touching, hands clasped. The quantum bridge between their minds, built gradually over centuries, finally completed its structure. Elara felt her consciousness expanding exponentially, merging with Lyrix's yet somehow retaining its essential nature. Knowledge flowed through them, the secrets of the first ones, the purpose of the quantum network, the true nature of consciousness itself as a fundamental force in the universe. As schism forces burst into the spaceport, weapons raised, they found not two beings but a single entity radiating energy that made the air itself shimmer. Human and Stellarian, yet neither and both, a hybrid intelligence that could perceive across vast distances of space. The attackers faltered, weapons lowering in awe or fear. Through the network, Elara/Lyrix reached out, touching minds across the Empire, sharing understanding rather than imposing it. The truth of the prophecy revealed itself not in words but in experience shared instantly across light years. The quantum network stabilized, strengthened by the new node of hybrid consciousness at its center. Throughout the 13 systems, beings of diverse species felt a momentary touch of awareness, a glimpse of possibility, of connection across the barriers of biology and culture. In that moment, Elara knew she would see Earth again someday, not as the human she had been, but as something new, a bridge between worlds, the first of many such connections to come. The universe had guided her across 3 centuries and countless light years for this purpose, not to remain frozen in time, but to help life itself evolve toward its next great leap. As the royal transport launched, bearing away the council and palace staff, the newly formed consciousness that was both Elara and Lyrix yet something more expanded its awareness through the quantum network. They would rebuild, not just the palace or the empire, but the very notion of what consciousness could become when barriers between minds fell away. The schism faction, confronted with the living embodiment of the prophecy they had feared, found not destruction but revelation. Some fled, some knelt, some simply stood in wonderment as the hybrid entity began to speak, with Elara's scientific precision and Lyrix's diplomatic grace, explaining what had happened and what would come next. "We are the first," they said, voice resonating with harmonics no single species could produce. "But not the last. The quantum bridge awaits all who seek understanding across the divisions of form and origin. Not to erase difference, but to celebrate it. Not to end isolation, but to make it a choice rather than a necessity." Across the stars, on a blue planet 3 centuries removed from the one Elara had known, instruments detected an unusual signal emanating from a distant region of space, a pattern that puzzled Earth's scientists, for it somehow combined perfectly mathematical precision with what could only be described as music. A message was coming home, carried on quantum filaments that human science had only begun to discover. And with it, the promise of a future where no one need remain frozen in time, isolated by the vast distances between worlds. The universe, it seemed, had been waiting for exactly this moment, when beings separated by evolution could choose connection over division, and forge from their differences a destiny greater than either could achieve alone.